The best dress watches under $500 are not the Seiko Cocktail time. Yes, they are beautiful, but they lack some major specs. Going with a micro brand for your dress watch is the only logical choice to make. You often get a more daring design with a better build quality. And the watches that we're taking a look at today are the perfect example of that. Hello there, my name's Kieran, welcome to Top Tier Ticker, I hope you're having a good day. Today we'll be taking a closer look at two beautiful new releases from my favourite British micro brand. Indeed, I must confess I'm already the owner of a watch from this micro brand, and it's a watch that I absolutely adore. Therefore, this video is not sponsored. These watches are only on loan. I simply think that these are watches that you guys need to see. And my personal watch from this brand brings me so much joy. I just want you guys to share in the fun. Oh, and by the way, we're on the road to 100,000 subscribers. I'd love for you to subscribe, maybe like the video. That would be amazing. Thank you. So I have two brand new Beaucroft models to show you here today. One of them is a new colorway of the watch that I already own, and the other is a brand new model based around the first ever watch that Beaucroft created. Now I'll first go over the new model and then we'll take a look at my favorite, the Seiko. So this new watch is called the Signature. They've taken the design of the first model, they've changed a few things, and I think they've really evolved this model into something different. I think Beaucroft has learned a lot from the watches that they have made, and they've implemented that into this new model. Now there are 4 versions of this new watch. You can get an Eden green, which is very similar to my teal Seiko. You can get a slate grey, which I think is definitely the most versatile from the lineup. You can get this seafoam green, which is very turquoisey, and then the one that I have here, which is the midnight blue. Now most of you can probably tell this is an incredibly minimal dial design. They've taken away the Arabic numerals that are on the previous Senate model, and now we just have a basic printed minute track around the perimeter. The teardrop markers do stay at the 12 and the 6, which is a signature, been a pun intended, to Beaucroft, and you can also see that teardrop as the seconds counterbalance. There is this sort of stepped section within the indexes, which definitely adds a level of detail and a level of interest, and I'm glad that's there, otherwise I think this dial would be a little bit too plain. Now we do have applied indexes on this dial, and as you can see they are multifaceted, so when you move the watch around you get different reflections depending on the angle, and the same can be said for the handset. It features a facet down the middle, so you do get different reflections with those too. And one thing that I really enjoy is that this minute hand does stretch right to the outer dial here. Now the dial finish on this particular model is sunburst. I wouldn't describe it as like an over-the-top sunburst finish, but there's definitely enough of it to give the watch some visual interest. I don't think it's quite as dynamic as my teal Seiko, but it definitely has enough life to it, and I'm glad that the sunburst finish is here because it does add a bit of character that I think is needed because of that minimal design. Now the proportions of this case are a little bit unusual for a dress watch. Now this watch comes in with a 40mm case diameter. The lug to lug here is coming in at a super compact 44mm, and then one of the most impressive measurements is the case thickness, which is coming in at just 10mm here. Now this watch does wear well because of that compact lug to lug and the case thickness, so the wearing experience here is obviously comfortable. However, because this watch is 40mm and it's mostly dial, it does have quite an impactful wearing experience. As you can see, it looks quite big on my 6.5-inch wrist. So if you do prefer a slightly bigger wearing experience or you have a larger wrist, this is definitely a watch to consider here. Now the signed crown is a decent size, it doesn't screw down, it's only push pull, but it is nice and grippy. And this is actually a new crown over the one that comes on my Seiko. It has a flatter construction and it's definitely a lot easier to grip, although I do think that the onion style crown that's on my Seiko does look a little bit better. So this is Beaucroft going for function over form. Very rarely do you see a sandblasted finish on a dress piece like this. Typically dress watches are polished, and we do still have some polished surfaces on this watch with, with that bezel. However, beneath that bezel we have a sandblasted finish that runs from lug to lug, and there is no polished edge running along the sides of these lugs. So it is quite an interesting look, but I think it works here. It's almost like a juxtaposition of different styles with the finishing and then the dial design. Now flipping the watch over reveals the Miyota 9039 through the display case back. This is a movement that beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour and has a 40-hour power reserve. Typical accuracy of these movements is -10 to +30 seconds out of the factory. However, Beaucroft is regulating these watches to be within 10 seconds per day, and this particular model that I have is running at just +4 seconds a day, so technically within chronometer standards here. Now where the strap seems to be an afterthought for most watch brands, I think Beaucroft approached this area slightly different. This is genuine Horween leather, so it's a high quality material here, and they're also handmade, and you can tell by the quality of the stitching and the finishing. They also feature an oiled finish, so you are going to get that patina when you wear it, and we do have a signed buckle and tang here which feature a brushed finish. Beaucroft do also offer a mesh strap if you want that instead, and it does feature the Beaucroft branding on the mesh. But a couple of things I don't like about this watch. I think that the 18mm 18mm lug width here is a little bit too small for this dial. I would have liked to have seen a 20mm lug here. I think it would have looked better proportioned. I don't understand why the buckle features a brushed finish when there is no brushing to this case. That's a little bit funky. It would have made sense if it was polished or sandblasted. The 30 meters of water resistance is a little bit disappointing for a modern watch, but of course being a dress watch, you're probably not going to get this watch wet anyway, right? And although these straps are great quality, they're a little bit long. As you can see, my 6.5-inch wrist is on the smallest hole here. However, let's talk about my favorite model. It's the Seiko. I genuinely think this is one of the most compelling dress watches on the market, full stop. Now, although this is just a new color variant of the Seiko, there are actually some differences between each model. Where the Signature is the dress watch from the collection, I feel like the Seiko is the sort of more everyday watch because it features a better spec sheet than the Signature, and I also think it features a design that works in more scenarios. Now, although we still do clearly have a minimal design philosophy going on here, there's definitely a lot more going on with this dial and case. For starters, we actually have two different levels within that dial. We have the raised chapter ring around the edge and then the lower surface in the center. We have applied indexes which start on that raised surface and then reach out to the lower surface. This model features a sunburst finish within that chapter ring, but then we have a gradient finish in the center. So you are getting two different types of finishes on one dial here. Now, one big difference between my Seiko and this new one is the branding. Beaucroft has taken away the automatic beneath the logo, and they've also made the logo and the text smaller too. Now, one thing I'm glad they've carried over from the previous version of the Seiko is that beautiful leaf handset. My Seiko gets so many compliments because of this handset. People love it. However, there is a slight difference in color. Mine sort of has a gunmetal gray finish where this one matches the indexes more. Again, I'm inclined to say I prefer the gunmetal of mine just because I love my watch. However, I can appreciate how this one is a more balanced design. However, one massive benefit of going with the Seiko over the Signature is you actually get loom here. You get loom within the teardrops and those leaf hands. And the loom here is actually surprisingly good for a dressy everyday watch. It's actually better than some divers that I've reviewed from micro brands. However, the water resistance is no longer 30 meters, it's been upgraded to 50. So the upgraded water resistance and the addition of loom does make this a better everyday candidate than the Signature. Now, this watch features the exact same movement as the Signature, the Miyota 9039, and you are also getting that regulation that you get with the other model. The straps also are the exact same because we do have the same lug width at 18mm. However, this watch is slightly smaller, coming in at just 37mm. The lug to lug here is 42.5mm, and the thickness is 10.6mm. However, instead of the flat sapphire that we get on the Signature, we get a domed sapphire here instead. No real difference in clarity. I just think that the visual effect of the dome does add a little bit of character here, and of course both feature anti-reflective treatment on the underside of those crystals. And the case shape of the Seiko is another reason why I love mine so much. It features this bridged construction from lug to lug, almost like the lugs cross a bridge to meet one another, and then there's a sandblasted finish underneath the case. I absolutely adore the Seiko. It is one of my favorite watches, full stop. It seriously makes me smile every single time I look down at my wrist when I'm wearing it, and it's a watch that I genuinely find it hard to find fault with. I still think the Signature is an excellent watch for the money, and by the way, still wipes the floor with any sort of Seiko Cocktail time model, both in design and in terms of specifications in my opinion. However, it's hard to beat the Seiko. I just think it's so compelling. Now, both models here come in at $499. Now, these watches come with free worldwide shipping and a 2-year warranty, and it's the same price no matter what strap you choose. So if you want the mesh or the leather, it's $499. So it really is just a choice of which design you prefer more. And go and check out all of the other colorways that they do for each of these models in the description below. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Bye for now.